No one was prepared for what happened that evening on The View. The studio, bathed in bright spotlights, buzzed with anticipation. The audience, consisting of hundreds of spectators, erupted in applause as the hosts announced the next guest, Denzel Washington, a Hollywood legend whose new film, The Last Verdict, was already earning critical acclaim. But what began as a routine interview to promote the film quickly turned into a moment that went down in television history. This story is about dignity, the boundaries of provocation, and the strength to stay true to oneself. The View studio was, as always, charged with energy. The vibrant red and blue tones of the set created a warm yet slightly formal atmosphere. The host chairs, Whoopi Goldberg, Joy Behar, Sarah Haynes, and Sunny Hostin, were arranged in a semicircle, with a solitary chair for the guest, like a throne for a star. Cameras hummed, operators and headsets whispered to each other, and producers behind the scenes checked the script. The audience, diverse in age and background, was already buzzing with excitement. Denzel Washington wasn't just an actor. He was an icon whose roles in Training Day and Glory had forever changed cinema. Sunny Hostin, known for her sharp tongue and legal directness, sat with perfect posture, holding her question cards. Her gaze was focused, with a slight glint that hinted at her intent to challenge. Whoopi Goldberg, as the main moderator, smiled, trying to keep the atmosphere light. Joy Behar, with her characteristic irony, was ready to throw in a quip, while Sarah Haynes looked slightly tense, as if sensing that today's show might veer off script. When Denzel stepped onto the stage, the studio exploded with applause. His charisma filled the room, a confident stride, a restrained smile, and a dark suit that fit impeccably. He waved to the audience, sat in the guest chair, and joked, "I hope you won't be too tough on me today." The audience laughed, but there was already a faint tension in the air. The cameras zoomed in, and Sunny Hostin, wasting no time, opened the interview. "Denzel, welcome to The View," Sunny began, her voice warm but with a hint of formality. "The Last Verdict is an incredible film. You play a judge fighting corruption. What drew you to this role?" Denzel leaned back in his chair, his posture relaxed but his eyes keenly observant of the hosts. "It's a story about justice, about a man who stands by his principles despite pressure. I think that resonates with a lot of people. We all want to believe that truth will prevail." The audience applauded, and Whoopi nodded with a smile. "Absolutely. And you, as always, brought it to life on screen in a way that gives chills." Denzel smiled modestly, but Sunny, glancing at her notes, leaned forward. "It's interesting that you mention principles," she said, her tone sharpening slightly. "But let me ask you a direct question. You often play heroes who fight for justice, but in real life, you avoid making loud political statements. Why? Don't you think stars of your stature should use their platform for activism?" The studio fell silent for a moment. The audience, which had just been clapping, froze, sensing the shift in mood. Denzel raised an eyebrow but kept his face calm. "I believe everyone contributes in their own way," he replied, his voice measured but firm. "My job is to tell stories that make people think. I'm not a politician. My platform is my films." Sunny smiled, but her eyes glinted. "But don't you think that's not enough? In times when the world needs voices speaking out against injustice, your silence seems like a convenient position." Those words hit like a stone in water. The audience gasped, some covering their mouths. Whoopi Goldberg leaned forward slightly, as if about to intervene, but Sunny pressed on. "I mean, Denzel, you're an icon. People listen to you. But when you avoid topics like racial injustice or political corruption, doesn't it feel like you're shirking responsibility?" Denzel clenched his fists, but his face remained composed. The camera zoomed in on his eyes, deep, thoughtful, with a faint spark of anger. "Sunny, I'm not shirking," he said, his voice quieter but heavier. "I grew up in a time when I had to fight for every step. My films speak to that, about struggle, about dignity, about humanity. You think I'm silent? My roles speak for me." The audience erupted in applause, but Sunny didn't back down. She leaned back, crossing her arms, her smile turning sarcastic. Roles are one thing, but the real world is another. You talk about dignity, but isn't it hypocritical to hide behind fictional characters when you could make a real impact? People want to see the real Denzel, not just his heroes. The studio froze again. Sarah Haynes nervously adjusted her glasses, and Joy Behar muttered quietly, "Oh, Sonny, you're going too far." Whoopi tried to defuse the tension. "All right, let's cool it down a bit. Denzel, tell us about filming the movie." But Sonny interrupted. "No, Whoopi, I want an answer. Denzel, why do you avoid tough topics? Are you afraid it'll hurt your career?" Those words were like a slap. The audience gasped again, and someone in the back pulled out a phone to record. Denzel leaned forward, his gaze sharp as a blade. "Sonny, you want to talk about fear? I'm not afraid. I've lived a life where I had to prove my worth every day. You think I avoid topics? I choose how and where to speak. And I won't let you or anyone else tell me I'm not doing enough." The studio erupted in applause, but the tension didn't ease. Sonny, sensing she was losing control, went all in. "Denzel, I respect your career, but let's be honest. You earn millions, live in luxury, and your silence looks like a way to avoid inconvenience. Isn't it hypocritical to play heroes fighting for justice when in real life you stand on the sidelines?" The silence in the studio was deafening. Even the operators froze, cameras fixed on Denzel's face. His jaw tightened, his eyes flashed, but he didn't look away. Slowly, with dignity, he stood from his chair. The audience held its breath. "You know, Sonny," he began, his voice low but resonating like thunder, "I didn't come here to have you or anyone else judge my life or my principles. You want to talk about hypocrisy? Hypocrisy is when you use your platform to tear others down for ratings. I do what I believe is right through my work, my actions, my life. And I won't let you twist that to fit your show." He turned to the audience, his gaze softening but his voice unwavering. "I'm not a hero, I'm a man. But I know one thing, dignity isn't what you show on camera. It's how you live when the cameras are off. And I won't let anyone make me feel that's not enough." With that, Denzel removed his microphone, tossed it onto the chair, and headed for the exit. The click of his shoes on the stage echoed loudly in the silence. The audience erupted in applause, but some shouted, "Sonny, that was too much!" Producers behind the scenes scrambled, whispering into headsets, "What do we do? He's leaving!" Sonny sat stunned, her face a mix of defiance and unease. Whoopi tried to salvage the situation. "All right, let's take a break, we'll be right back." But the cameras kept rolling, capturing the chaos. The audience was divided, some cheered for Denzel, others whispered, filming the moment on their phones. The clip of his speech was already spreading online, racking up millions of views in minutes. As the show went to commercial, producers rushed backstage, trying to convince Denzel to return, but he had already left the studio. His exit became a viral moment, flooding social media. Hashtags #Denzel walks out and #Sonny vs. Denzel trended, with comments split. Some praised Denzel for his dignity, others felt Sonny had the right to ask tough questions. This conflict became one of the most talked about moments in The View history. Some criticized Sonny Hostin for crossing a line, while others believed she was just doing her job, challenging a star. Denzel, as always, remained silent in the media, but his speech on the show was quoted everywhere, from news articles to social media posts. For many, it became a symbol of standing up for one's principles, even under pressure. What do you think of this conflict? Did Denzel do the right thing by walking out? Did Sonny have the right to push so hard? Share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to stay updated on stories like this. After Denzel Washington left the View studio, leaving behind a stunned silence and a microphone on the chair, the atmosphere remained charged, like the calm before a storm. The cameras still hummed, operators tried to capture every glance from the hosts, and the audience couldn't tear their eyes from the stage. What had happened wasn't just a television moment, it was an explosion that was already spreading across social media, promising to become a viral phenomenon. But the story didn't end there. The second part of the conflict reveals how events unfolded after Denzel's exit, how the hosts, audience, and the world beyond the studio reacted, and what lesson this moment left behind. When the show returned from the commercial break, the atmosphere in the studio had shifted. The bright spotlights, usually festive, now felt too harsh, illuminating the tense faces of the hosts. Whoopi Goldberg, as always, took on the role of peacemaker. "All right, we just had quite an unexpected moment," she said, her voice calm but with a slight tremble. She smiled, trying to lighten the mood, but her eyes betrayed concern. "Let's talk about it." Sunny Hostin, still sitting with perfect posture, looked less confident than before. Her question cards lay untouched on the table. "I want to clarify," she began, her voice firm but defensive. "My job is to ask tough questions. Denzel is an incredible actor, but I believe stars of his caliber have a greater responsibility. I didn't mean to offend him, but we need to talk about real issues." The audience reacted mixedly. Some clapped, supporting Sunny's directness, but most remained silent, and from the back rows came shouts. "You went too far!" Joy Behar, usually quick with a sarcastic remark, looked uncomfortable. "Sunny, I get that you want to spark discussion, but maybe that was a bit harsh," she said, nervously adjusting her glasses. Sarah Haynes, who had been silent, finally spoke. "I think Denzel had a right to defend his stance. He said it so powerfully." The cameras captured every detail: Sunny's pursed lips, Whoopi's uneasy glance, Sarah's trembling hands on the table. Producers behind the scenes were in a frenzy, whispering through headsets, trying to figure out how to wrap the show without losing control. One whispered, "It's already trending on Twitter. We can't just ignore it." Another replied, "We need to let Sunny explain, but carefully." Behind the scenes, chaos reigned. After Denzel left the building, producers tried contacting his agent to persuade him to return or at least comment. But Denzel's phone was off, and his team declined any discussion. "He said everything he needed to say," his manager replied curtly before hanging up. Meanwhile, on social media, Denzel's exit was racking up millions of views. Clips filmed by the audience on their phones flooded TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram. Hashtags #Denzel walks out and #Sunny vs. Denzel top trends, with comments divided. Some wrote, "Denzel is a king. He showed what dignity looks like," while others backed Sunny. "She's right, stars should speak on important issues, not hide behind roles." Memes featuring Whoopi's shocked face and Denzel's clenched fists spread like wildfire. In the studio, Whoopi tried to steer the show back on track, shifting to the next guest, but the audience was distracted. People whispered, scrolled their phones, and some even stood to leave, showing solidarity with Denzel. An elderly woman in a bright sweater loudly said, "Sunny, you had no right to humiliate him like that." Her words were drowned in mixed applause and shouts. As the show neared its end, Sunny requested another chance to speak. "I want everyone to understand," she said, looking directly into the camera. Her voice was calm, but it was clear she was defending her reputation. "I respect Denzel Washington. His contribution to cinema is immense. But I believe we, as a society, have a right to ask those with influence how they use their platform. This wasn't about humiliation, it was about responsibility." Her words sparked another wave of reactions. Some in the audience clapped, but many remained unimpressed. Whoopi quickly intervened. "Sunny, I get your point, but let's be real. Denzel said something important. Dignity isn't just what you do in public. It's how you live." Her words drew another round of applause, and Sunny seemed to sense she was losing support. Backstage, producers were drafting a press statement to soften the situation. "The View has always been a platform for open discussion. We respect Denzel Washington and hope the dialogue continues," the draft read. But it was clear the conflict had spiraled far beyond the studio. The next day, the clash between Denzel and Sunny dominated headlines. Networks from CNN to Fox News replayed clips of Denzel's speech, with commentators debating who was right. Some called Sunny fearless for challenging a star, while others accused her of provocation for ratings. It wasn't a dialogue, it was a hunt, one film critic wrote in a column. On social media, the debate was even fiercer. Denzel's fans created fan videos, overlaying his speech with epic scenes from his films, captioned, "This is Denzel. He doesn't play games." Others defended Sunny, arguing she was just doing her job. If stars don't want tough questions, they shouldn't go on talk shows. One popular tweet read, "Denzel showed what class looks like. Sunny wanted clout and got a lesson." Denzel himself remained silent. His only comment came at the premiere of The Last Verdict, where he said, "I said everything I needed to say. Life isn't a show, it's the choices you make every day." Those words only fueled the debate, as many saw them as confirmation of his principles. The conflict on The View became more than a television moment. It was a symbol of a deeper question: where is the line between free speech and respect for others? Denzel Washington, by Walking Out, left behind not just a viral clip but a powerful message about dignity and choice. Sunny Hostin may have aimed to spark an important conversation, but her methods raised questions. Is it acceptable to cross personal boundaries for the sake of discussion? This story made the world reflect. Are celebrities obligated to be activists? Can we judge someone for how they use their platform? And most importantly, how do we balance provocation with respect? Denzel reminded everyone that dignity isn't about loud words but the quiet strength shown through actions. What do you think of this conflict? Did Denzel do the right thing by standing up for himself? Did Sunny have the right to ask such questions? Share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to stay updated on stories like this.